Well, hello everybody. It's Mark Walker here, the Business Builder, and I'd like to welcome you this evening to this presentation, which is going to last probably about 60 minutes. One thing I'd like to do straight away is click on this little button here. You should have something ping up on your desktop now. And it's basically about my complete new relaunch of my Turning Point seminar, which last ran 2 years ago, around about the same time, November 2013. And really, I've been asked to bring this back by popular demand. So I just wanted to ping that up there now so we can start with quite a few people who are coming into the room. I like to get straight into this. Do you know I'm a big respecter of your time? I think it's very important in business to be congruent and be respectful of other people's time. I come across so many individuals that get in touch with me via social media and through my office that's situated in the middle of the High Street in Worcester, Foregate Street. And one thing that always amazes me is individuals who expect to do business with you, but clearly from day one don't respect you by being late, by cancelling appointments, by sending details through to you, sort of asking for money up front, before they've actually given you any assistance. Those individuals that purport to know other people that have deals for us in life. And actually, when you dig down a little bit deeper, you find out that they're not the person who was dealing with the deal in the first place. And they forget that it's actually very easy through social media to find out who people are nowadays. For those who have not heard of me before, perhaps you've tuned in for the first time to one of my broadcasts. Let me just explain a little bit about who I am and why I feel I'm qualified to tell you how I became known as the Business Builder online. And a couple of my success stories. There are many, and it's more about yourselves tonight and me focusing on yourself. So I started my first business when I was 8 years of age. I started cutting people's lawns and hedges, weeding their gardens, and very quickly found out that they used to give me this stuff called money. And as an 8-year-old boy, I was well regarded in my local area. Because what I used to do by the time I was 9 and 10 and I got a sort of small customer base was I used to then get my friends to go and cut the lawns and give them £3 whilst I used to get £5 from the owner. Now, of course, as I've got older and even in my late teens, I learned that was leverage. But of course, as a 9-10-year-old boy, it didn't really mean much at the time, except that I had many good friends who, and interestingly enough, one of my friends I met only 2 weeks ago at a charity event where my group, which is the Worcestershire Ambassadors, held a huge charity event. We raised over £55,000 for charity on the night at local charities for Worcester. And I was introduced to an old school friend who used to be one of the guys that used to work with me. So that was quite bizarre because I've not seen him now for sort of 40 years. 40 for those that are wondering. So leverage is very important in your business. You need to build up a team around you, people that you can work with, successful people. Always mix with successful people, but double check their congruency. Make sure that their values, their core values and beliefs are aligned with yourself. You see, once you do that, once you start mixing with individuals who are on the same wavelength as yourself, then you'll start to become more successful. The reason you become more successful is because you have a common theme, you have a common goal, you have a common aim, you love the people around you and you want to serve those people. And you'll find that as you serve people through your business, that you will become more and more successful in whatever way you wish to be successful. That may be more money, that may be a larger house, that may be more time with the family, that may be more time for your crafts and your hobbies. Whatever it is, you will become more successful through it. And the reason that I picked up the name The Business Builder was by the time I was 18, I was running Worcestershire's largest nightclub at the time. When I took over the nightclub as the club manager, we were open on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, the standard nightclub nights. By the time I left 2 years later, working in conjunction with a DJ who's a very good friend of mine, I've recently been on holiday with him. We've known each other for over 30 years. He now owns the largest DJ training academy online. That's the djacademy.org. You can check him out afterwards. Gentleman is Andy King, DJ Andy King. Very well respected gentleman in the industry. Been around DJing since he was about 13 years of age. The guy is just awesome. Trains some of the top DJs across the planet, including one of the DJs who constantly wins the DNC championships every year. And the reason I talk about these people is because you can validate who I am. You can go to social proof, you can go to validation, you can contact these people and say, hey, did you work with Mark 30 odd years ago? They're obviously going to say yes, because we did. And it's very important, guys and girls, to understand you need to work with people who are congruent, who are good, who are experts, who you can add value to. And when you add value to their life, to their business, that's what makes you more successful. Now, I would imagine that you've come along to watch this webinar tonight for a couple of reasons. I'd suggest that one of those reasons is that something in my registration page resonated with yourself. It may well be that you are looking to start a business. You may well be looking to execute a business. You may well be looking to joint venture with somebody. You might be looking for somebody to invest in your business. I'm not sure. This is why I have an open questions and answer session. And I have right by the side of me here a separate page. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask me, all you need to do is to type it in now. And in fact, let me just do a quick ask. If I can ask everyone in the room just to put a yes if you can hear me and you can see the video, that would be cool. And I can see all those pinging up. It'd be fantastic. Excellent. So we've got individuals here sitting at the moment and listening to us. That's fine. Yep, just double checking there. So if you have any specific questions about your business, about where you are at the moment, where you want to go to, what you've done in the past, then please feel free to ask that question. I will answer those as we go through. You'll actually see a little button you can press, and it's a little question mark button, and you can hit that and then send a question. But the main thing for tonight is that I want to explain to you that the turning point for your life will come when you realize that you have to change something that you've been doing for the last 12 months. If you're sitting here tonight watching me on the same laptop or computer, at the same desk, in the same room, in the same house, in the same street, and you really, really want to change that, change all of that around you, then what I would suggest is you consider hitting that button to secure your seat at my Turning Point seminar, and I'll explain why as we go along. Firstly, the important thing to know from me is that I don't do large seminars anymore. I used to stand on stage for some of the top property investor training companies in the UK, and I stepped away from that a good few years ago. There are reasons for that, and my mentees and my students know exactly what those reasons are. And primarily, it's because I got a much better result for my students when I worked more of a one-to-one, on a more of a one-to-one basis, close-knit group working together. Now, the business builder element comes in because whether you're looking to get into property, and I know that some people contact me and say, Mark, I'd love to get into property, but I don't have any money. I've got a poor credit rating. I don't know how to find source properties, whatever. Let me just tell you now, I don't just train property strategies, I train business strategies. Because fundamentally in business, you have to know a few core elements to running a business, both setting up a business and running a business. The main thing is always about adding value and service to whoever your customer is. So in property, that would be a motivated seller, somebody who is distressed with their property and looking to utilize your experience and expertise and services to help them get out of that situation. With a business that you might want to set up on the high street, there's a few more fundamentals you have to look at. You have to negotiate with the property landlord to get favorable rates. In Worcester, for example, my office space in total costs pretty much £60,000 a year to keep that office in operation. Now, at the moment, for those that have followed me for a while, you'll know that I only open my office on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and a Thursday. And I never work Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays. And Mondays, I do a lot of work for my family business in the mornings before moving on to doing other interesting projects. So I do have people that know that, who will contact me and say, Mark, why are you spending all that money on a yearly basis if at the end of the day you're only open 3 days a week? Well, I look at it this way, that you have to invest in yourself and your future always today. There's no good planning on investing in the future because the future will never come. Let me say that again. It's no good investing in the future because your future will never come. Because if you're investing for January 2016, and that's your future, when you get to January 2016, that isn't your future anymore. That is the here and now. And one of the biggest challenges I find when I take on new students and mentees is they've spent a life planning in the future, planning their goals, having their visual boards available where they pin their little pictures to in their cars and their statements that they find around the internet. And do you know what? That's fantastic, guys, to have that sort of dream board. But to be honest, unless you invest today and have a mentor in your life who will not only train you on the strategies that have made him successful for 40 years pretty much, you will also have somebody who will invest in that business opportunity. So where I gain and my mentees gain is by coming and sitting with me and being very much one-to-one orientated, where I will give them a straight, yes, that's going to work, or no, let's have a look at it from a different angle. Because if you've been trying the same thing over and over again and it's not working, as a good old saying goes, that's insanity, because it is never going to change for you. So you need to invest today in order that we can work together for your future, which is coming up anyway, and we will have a plan in place for January 2016. And that's exactly what I do on my Turning Point seminar. I give you specific strategies, I give you very powerful thought processes and very powerful sentences to use for you to go out the following day and secure the deal that you want to secure. And again, whatever that deal is. The beauty of working on a close-knit group is that we get to share our experiences, we get to share our results, we get to share what's working and happening for us now. It's a mastermind that I create. Every time I have a group of individuals, it's a mastermind. And the important thing to remember about a mastermind is that you need to have an expert who's heading the table for you. It's no good having a mastermind if the person heading up that table has not got that experience, has not got that investment, and therefore has not got that real congruent skill set to enable you to become successful in your life. So that's what I offer through my Turning Point seminar. And as I mentioned earlier, the button that's there sitting on your desk now is for you to hit, because there is a very, very small amount of seats. There are a very small amount of individuals that I wish to assist in January 2016 by getting everybody geared up in November. And the date for the seminar is Saturday, November the 28th. Now, I know that some individuals on this call tonight, excuse me while I adjust myself, some individuals on the call tonight are existing mentees and have been on previous courses of different scales and sessions with me. For those individuals, I want everyone to realize that there is a massive discount tonight with that button for the early bird discounts. The ticket price, or should there be any seats left after the end of tonight, and you'll know when all the seats are gone, everybody, because that button will disappear. Okay, so hidden in there is a number of seats that I'm giving up and available for early bird visitors, yourself, for taking action, for trusting yourself, for trusting your gut instinct that got you to register and turn up and listen to me live. There are lots of individuals that register for seminars and they never turn up. They seem to think it's like part of the magic green button. Oh, I've registered for a seminar about changing my life, but I won't bother turning up. That never, ever works. It can't work, because the law of attraction states that whatever you put out into the universe is what you attract. So if you're a type of individual that clicks on a button, signs up for a registration link, and never attends, well, have a guess what? Your success will never attend. It will never turn up. It will never find you. Some people ask me, when I stepped away from doing the large-scale stage work where I was stood in front of hundreds and hundreds of individuals, what was the reason for that? And I've touched on it earlier, that I felt that the group training sessions were not me. You know, it didn't feel comfortable with me. I know that there are existing individuals that stand on stage and coach individuals that really shouldn't be there, that really should have a little bit of self-respect for themselves as well as the people they're preaching to actually step off that stage and take a backward step. Because there are a lot of individuals out there who do not deliver for individuals that I know. And I know this because people contact me through social media constantly. I probably get 20 brand new messages every day through Messenger from individuals across the planet. So when I talk about coaches on stages, I'm also referring to America and in the East, and obviously here in the UK. But I don't want to focus too much on this negativity aspect of what individuals are doing, because I just want you to be successful from day one. I want you to work with a mentor that has a superb power team behind him, who has the infrastructure and the finance to both finance property deals, to finance businesses if they're of a great idea and opportunity, to work with you and really get to be on a one-to-one basis. with myself and my power team. To give you an example of one of the more recent success stories that is ongoing, but it is heading towards contracts being closed now. So I feel very confident in talking about this live tonight. 2 students who I met less than 4 weeks ago, one of whom brought a property deal to me. And for those who follow me online, you'll know that I only ever share about 40% of what I'm doing in my business, just to make you aware. So whether you're following me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Pinterest or Instagram or Facebook or any of those social networks, I share about 40% of what we're doing on a daily basis. And for these 2 students, their story will be shared with their permission once it completes on contract. But if I was to say to you that for the value and investment of hitting that button now to secure your seat tonight, which is exactly the same value as a different course that I run, which is my 4-week Wealth from Property course, the intensive course, these 2 gentlemen and myself will have created a business which over a 5-year period is about to generate £12 million. Okay, so let me repeat that again. If you secure your seat tonight to join me, you could be a part of a new team of individuals, the same as those 2 gentlemen and myself, who are generating a new business with a turnover over 5 years of around about £12 million. Now, that includes quite a bit of profit as well. I won't go into that tonight because that will be incorrect. But at a £12 million for a small investment for themselves, they have, and I wish they were here to by the side of me to sort of join in. They've hit the big time, hit the jackpot, got a pocket full of wonga, whatever you want to look at it. The beauty for them is that they get to work together. The beauty for me is that I get to work in an area of the country where I wouldn't have traveled to previously. I get to use my power team. I get to use my interior design company. I get to use my legal team. I get to use my mental health care team. And we all get together and we can pull this whole business together and then invest into the operation of that business. Now, that's just one particular business that I'm running at the moment. And as I say, just about to close out on contracts. And again, I share these stories with you to show you that what I'm teaching individuals works. It works because I'm doing it. It works because it's successful. It works because it generates revenue and generates income. Now, that is a mixture of a business to do with property and also a separate business, a mental health care business. And if I was to say to you tonight, do you know of, or are you aware of, or can you search now on a separate tab whilst you're listening to me for any residential care homes open or recently closed in your area where my team can come in and rejuvenate some life into them with our business blueprint? Now, if you know of a residential care home in your area, and if it can hold maybe 15 to 17 beds, then you too could be working with me in 2016 on growing a £12 million business. Because my business model plugs in across any size of residential care home. In fact, you could have a large hotel, for example, in your area, 20-bed hotel. Lots of them are struggling nowadays. We know that. Needs to be a certain area. We're not looking for things on the coast. I know I said large hotel. Needs to be inland because we need to look after a certain group of service users that the NHS in the UK are failing. But if you have any of those in your area, if you're aware of any of those in your area, then by all means consider securing your seat, because when you secure your seat, it shows commitment. It shows commitment to yourself, that you want to invest in yourself. And when someone invests in themselves, on the balance and the law of reciprocity, the person that you're striking up that new contract with, so by you securing a seat, you're securing a contract with me for the whole day's training. But the reciprocity of that is that I have to put my money where my mouth is, because you've invested in me and invested in yourself. And that's why I find the beauty of working in small groups really, really works. It works wonderfully. I have a couple of questions. If you just bear with me while I look down towards my iPad. In fact, I'll lift it up. How's that? Then I can have a look. Okay, Kenneth, I don't want to waste anybody's time, but I have what many would call time rich and very cash poor due to being disabled. I don't want to hand out just a chance to break into property management and HMOs. Fantastic, Kenneth. Right, so time rich and cash poor. Let me just, there are a few other questions. Let me deal with Kenneth's question. Kenneth, first of all, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm not sure how we're connected, but I truly feel that, you know, there is a connection there. And as you've seen, I've just read your question out. So you're time rich, but cash poor. One of the largest strategies that I teach individuals is how to take control of property with very little money. There's always a little bit of money that you do need, generally for legal fees. In terms of how to negotiate with sellers, whether they be a motivated seller or actually just a seller that isn't particularly motivated, but they just want to sell their property, if that makes sense. A motivated seller to me is one of the 2% of property sellers. That's 2%. So if you're on Rightmove, at any one time, there's about 800,000 houses for sale in the country. But there's only 2% of those properties through Rightmove who are motivated sellers, the ones that are desperate to sell, the ones that are unable to pay their mortgage next month, the ones that literally are going, do I put food on the table for my family or do I pay the mortgage this month and get a better job? Now, there's lots of things we can do to help families like that. The main thing is we can look after their situation. We can absorb them into our business. So taking a struggling family who want to give up a mortgage opportunity, we can help them through the strategies that I teach. And I'm not here tonight to teach those strategies. I wouldn't disrespect you all in trying to fumble through it in 2 or 3 minutes. But we can take those families, we can bring them into our fold, we can bring them into our expertise, we can help them to become tenants within our own business. And then we can do something with their property. There are things we can and can't do. In the old days, there used to be a strategy called sale and rent back. And many of you on this call that are looking at going into property may be aware or maybe under the illusion that sale and rent back is actually illegal, because that's what most people would have you believe, that it's illegal nowadays, that it is not legal to buy a property and then rent it back to the same family. Well, let me just tell you straight away that that's incorrect information if you've ever heard that. You can actually go onto the government website and you can find out just by searching on the government website for sale and rent back, and you will go to a specific page where the government clearly states it is completely legal to enable sale and rent back deals. There is a caveat, because there always is with the governments. The caveat is that you have to be a residential social landlord. And what that means in reality is a landlord that fills in an application form, pays a license fee, you have a number of properties already in a portfolio, but it enables you to do sale and rent back. And in fact, the government website also says that you only have to pay 80% of market value. That's a bit strange, because when I did sale and rent backs, I always used to give my clients 100% of the value, because I looked, and my family business looked at doing the deals over a longer period of time. So we would have greater equity growth over a greater number of years. But unfortunately, some unscrupulous in property investors in the United Kingdom didn't do that. They actually did rip people off for the equity out of their property and caused the system to step in and go, hey, you can't do these deals anymore. It's illegal and you will be prosecuted. So we can't do that on that element, but you could if you wanted to take your time out to become a residential social landlord. So that's just one bit of expert information there. I hope you're making notes as you go along. You can verify this afterwards. I know what I'm on about for everybody. But Kenneth, you want to get into HMOs and management. That's really cool. Let me explain why. Because I really don't like management of our properties. I act as the operations director for my family portfolio. We have several hundred properties in the 3 counties of Herefordshire, Worcestershire and Gloucestershire. All of my close friends know that. My very close business partners know that. My students know that. My mentees know that. I don't put a big list out on the internet on behalf of my family. We don't need to. But my closest business partners here know that we have, and obviously the accountant knows that, and the solicitor knows that, etc., etc. But I really, as operations director, dislike management absolutely 100%. And let me explain why. I love people, but I don't like my time being wasted by repeating the same process over and over and over and over and over again. So one of the first things that I did when I took control of the family portfolio in 2005 was I automated as many of the processes that I could to ensure that when the family moved away from being on the high street, because my mother had been an estate agent for over 30 years in Worcester, we had 3 separate office operations. And the last office operation, which we moved out of, had the lads and the lasses that were working in there doing looking after the tenants, taking new inquiries. It was obviously an estate agency business, selling the property, box standard property that is. But my mother was very clever, and that's why I respect my mother so much, because what she did was she, from a very, very early start, way back in the 1980s, had a situation where, or a strategy when individuals came into us, we would look after those people first. So we weren't just taking any property on and taking any old photograph and doing a description. We would pretty much come up because of the strategies that we already knew. And for those, again, that aren't too familiar with my family history, we've been in business for hundreds and hundreds of years. right in the centre of Birmingham by the Bullring Shopping Centre. And there are photographs online, and there is a little write-up somewhere online, a little blog I did once, about my family that owned a lot of land right next door to New Street Station, just on Dudley Street. My great-grandfather owned what was a letting operation, a public house, a restaurant. I had a chat with Professor Carl Chin a few months ago, who came to the private business club that I'm a member of in the middle of Birmingham, St Paul's Club. And I had a chat with Professor Carl Chin about my family, the Bradshaws and what we were and what we had. And, you know, he knew of that building because it was a very historic building at the time. And it was only demolished in the early 1960s when the New Street Station expanded and the Bullring Shopping Centre was created, etc., etc. Again, I share that story with you to show you that, you know, I have a big background history in business, both property and business. I was brought up talking business. I was brought up with property. I am not one of these mentals who had a drug habit or an alcohol addiction, and I went sofa surfing from mate's house to mate's house until I, you know, hit that green button online and made it big. I'm the real deal, guys. And that's why people who join me, follow me, listen to me to the letter are successful. And of course, the only way I can help you is for you to come on board, come on my turning point, hit that. When you hit that turning point button now that's on your screen, it will actually take you, there will be a separate browser that pops up. So please don't feel that you're going to lose this webinar. It will stay here in this browser, and that button will take you to another page. Just open that page now. Click on the button, open the page. It's not going to automatically charge your credit card or your debit card, but I want you to have that page open so at the end of this webinar, you can decide, shall I invest in myself or not? Shall I go and join Mark for the Turning Point 2015 seminar and get myself ready for 2016? Because I'm really sure you've come on this seminar because you've got a little bit of pain somewhere. I don't know what that pain is until we meet you. Kenneth, we're talking about your particular challenge. Don't let your disability dissuade you from being super successful. Don't let the fact you have very little money dissuade you from getting into property. I have money to invest in deals. I need people dotted around the country that can look for certain properties in their area where we can create a new business together. I don't need individuals to have lots of money. I really do need people to have time. That's why I said earlier about managing my family property portfolio. And the tenants, it's all automated, and I can teach you these systems. I can put you in touch with the people that I use, my business colleagues who create software, who will give demonstration software to yourself for you to go and try their products, so that you don't have to look at the finite amount of time or the mass amount of time that you have. You don't have to think, well, okay, Mark, you're going to teach me all these systems in 10 hours. And by the way, that's how long the Turning Point seminar lasts. For those individuals that have been on any of my training courses, they will vouch for this. I talk from 9 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. And sometimes some of my students have to go before we sort of decide to wrap up because they've got a train to catch or they've got a 2.5 hour journey back home. I just love what I do. And I love it when my students engage with me around the table, and it goes on and on and on. So the Turning Point seminar is a full 10 hours. Now, that doesn't include an hour for a morning coffee and an hour for an afternoon coffee break and an hour and a half for lunch. You'll be lucky, guys, if you get to eat your own sandwiches that you bring along, because there is so much I wish to share with you to change your life and to change your perception of what's happening. If you watch the media, you know, if you're one of these people that will turn this webinar off at the end and just go back and put the news channel on BBC or ITV or Sky News or even just turn that thing on called a telly, then, guys, I am going to change your life completely when I say to you, I won't want you to watch any television for a week before you come to that seminar. Now, you may have children, you may have a special documentary you like to watch, and I'm all for documentaries, the sort of the factual ones, the ones that show you things really happening. But this media hypnosis that we have in the UK, that it's doom and gloom, that people are out of work, that there's too many people coming into our country. The planet is a big place. There are more than enough job opportunities for individuals by creating their own entrepreneurial business. The old job, you know, the old 40, you know, work for 40 hours a week for 40 years for 40 grand salary. You know, that's gone. That's long gone. I mean, I've never had that, if you like, as a benefit, because when I took over running the nightclub when I was 18, I made it my responsibility to create multiple streams of income. And I arranged with the two directors at the time that they would allow me to create new stream incomes into the business. And I negotiated with them that I would have a share of any of the profits that I raised. Now, I still do the same thing today with deals that I do. I still speak to people I've never met before and say, hey, I've got a great opportunity. If I was to invest into that opportunity with your skill set and experience in creating the product or the service, do you think we could come up with a rough 50-50 split? Some people say yes, some people say no. But you have to keep asking. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep goading individuals into making that decision. You have to get them to believe. You have to get them to believe that it was their idea in the first place. And that's the key thing in business. Get somebody to take on board your idea or suggestion and put that seed into their head, and then have them come back to you and accept the offer. That is actually what hypnosis is, and I've touched on that now. That's what hypnosis is. Having the ability to plant your seed into somebody else's mind and have them come back to you and buy that product or service or idea, but have them believe that they had the idea in the first place. And that's how easy it is to do sales. Again, the old-fashioned way of doing sales has long gone out the window. Door-to-door selling, cold calling. What do we have nowadays? We have this constant text messaging on mobile phone apps. We have this barrage of spam that comes through constantly. We need to do something different. We need to look what the crowd are doing and do something different. There are some consistencies that I've always found in my 27 years of being in business which have worked, such as leaflets. Leaflets, for some reason, that direct marketing, that little bit of squidgy paper when somebody walks in their door, that does work. It's one of my most successful strategies for gaining new business, along with a very direct and targeted letter, which I know my students on this call tonight, guys and girls out there, you'll know this. There's a very direct letter that you go and put the letter for the letterbox, and you do have people ringing you. It's a very laser focused letter. And I'll be sharing that on the Turning Point, because that's what I want to do. For that 10 hours I'm talking to everybody, I want to be absorbing everything you're looking for in 2016. And I'm going to tailor make the seminar, along with the core points that I have that I will be getting across to you, but I will tailor make the seminar as we go through the day. And that's very key to understand. The other thing I'd like to share with you is that there is no upsell. Sometimes individuals contact me afterwards or through my support team, and they'll say, Mark, why is it you charge for a ticket to come and spend a day with you? Well, there's two reasons for that. I've covered one of them. One is the fact that you're investing in yourself, and by you doing that, the reciprocity is that I will be happy to look at investing in you. But the other thing is that I don't do an upsell. Most seminars out there where they offer this free ticket arrangement or very low value ticket entrance fee is because there's always an upsell. There's always a way they can get the room to buzz. And when the room's buzzing, they get people to pay thousands and thousands of pounds. And I respect that because it's a business model. And if I was in their business, I will be teaching them exactly the same strategy in order to create a seminar at low value and end up with 4 or 5 figure ticket sums. But I don't do that. I don't need to. Because my fun, guys, comes from having a seminar, my Turning Point seminar, every year, which, as I say, I've been asked to bring back this year. So I'm really looking forward to sharing everything again with yourselves. But I'm looking to create the Turning Point seminar, work with you through the whole of 2016. I'll be working with you because we'll be creating the new businesses and we'll be creating the new opportunities after the Turning Point seminar. My money, and what I teach all of my students, is our money that we create today is always made on the back end of the deal. Kenneth, again, with your situation where you have this need or to get into management and HMOs of management, then you can manage other people's HMOs. Why would you think for one moment that landlords or landladies out there want to manage their own HMOs? I've had a message from somebody through Facebook in the last 72 hours where they actually have given me a lead to assist somebody who has a challenge with their property portfolio. Now, I've made contact with this person, and should that come off in some sort of deal and with their permission, I'll be more than happy to share that at the Turning Point seminar. Again, I will share it with individuals who have invested in themselves and who want to know how I did it. Who was that person that contacted me? How long had that person been following me before they contacted me? There's another valuable lesson to share now for everybody. Whatever you're doing in your business life, if you use Facebook as one of your main portals for sharing information, please, 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 after this webinar, go and change your current status or your current account from just being a single account about everything that you do and create at least 2 accounts. One for your social and family photographs and whatever else you're doing, and one for your business. Because quite often I see individuals that are putting loads and loads of stuff out there about their achievements, their family, what they did at the weekend. Look at me, I fell over the table and got drunk, or look at my silly mate, look what he's done, he's crashed my car, or whatever. I see all this sort of stuff. And then over here they want to go, oh, but come and invest in me because I'm a respectable business person, etc., etc. And there's this disparity between who they really are, which is fantastic because you need to be congruent with who you are, but then what people are doing over here, which has absolutely nothing to do with the business that they're trying to sell. And I see this all of the time. And I say to my students all of the time, whatever you're doing as a hobby, if it's not what your core business is, go and create yourself a separate Facebook account at least, and put all of your business information over here. Now, okay, somebody over here looking at your social account who knows that you get drunk on a Friday night and, I don't know, put traffic cones on your head and climb up lampposts or whatever people do nowadays. But, that's fine over here. If you want to have a business that is about how to go out on a Friday night, get drunk at a nightclub and climb up a lamppost with a cone on your head. Don't be then putting the following day that you are dealing with something which requires sensitivity, which requires understanding. Because in business, the two don't go. We know that people have a life and we know that people have a business. But if your business life is a mirror of what you're doing here as a hobby, then you have to ask yourself the question, is that why I'm not being successful at the moment? You never know who's watching you. You never know. In fact, one of my favorite lines I say is, you never know where your next lead is coming from. You never know where that next phone call is coming from. You never know where that the next Facebook message is coming from. You never know the contact. You never know the context. But what I do know from my experience is that I have a separate Facebook account for my family information. We share photographs and opportunities and things that we're doing because it's a great way to share. And a bit like having WhatsApp. I know some people have WhatsApp. They have a family account and, you can be on holiday and share one photograph and the whole family get to see it. That's fantastic. But over here, I have a business account. And my business account is where I share all of the businesses and all of the strategies and the success strategies, and sometimes the ones that don't work out. I'm a very firm believer in sharing the ones that don't work out because then they're lessons for other people. I've had some deals this year which nearly closed out, and at the last minute, the vendor did a complete U-turn. Now, one of those deals cost me, if I was to annualize it over the 5 years I was planning to do it, probably around about £1 million a year. Now, I don't look at that and go, hey, I'm going to stop being in business because I've just lost £1 million a year. But it really does hone one's skill sets even more when you think, actually, if I'd have done that, if I'd have just got them to sign that document as the lock-in document on the night I met them and not leave it with them for 2 or 3 days because I felt sorry for their situation. And in fact, their situation wasn't going to help them. And I know the route that they've gone down, this particular couple, and it's not necessarily the right route. It's a route, but it's not the right route to get the result that they told me that they wanted. I have a student recently who came to me with a property which was a distressed couple. Okay, no names, no areas. I believe that that mentee is on this call tonight. But they brought this opportunity to me. And to cut the story short, it's gone down the route over 10 days where they've actually lied now. The people selling the property have lied to my students by saying they were going to do one thing. And because the internet's here, the internet's a wonderful thing, we can actually see what they're doing with the property. So again, just be very, very wary, guys, when you're working with people. Have that lockout agreement. And I do have agreements to lock out deals. Sometimes, because I'm a human and I do love everybody that I meet, I don't really believe that anyone's got a bad bone in the body. I think situations affect them. They make bad decisions based on their situation. And of course, their situation and how they react to us is more about them than us. So I have sat in front of potential clients that have been in a situation where their property is heavily distressed and there's nothing I can do, and I've been honest and open with them. And, they've just decided to go ranting and raving at me that we're all the same as property investors, we're only out for ourselves, etc., etc. But in fact, it's not about that. That's how their reaction is to what we have to offer. I'm just going to have a look for another question. Kenneth, I hope I covered that for you, my friend. As I say, there's absolutely nothing in your current situation that is going to prevent you from being successful in 2016. I'd certainly love to meet you and see if we could work together closer. By coming on the Turning Point seminar, that's a good starting point for yourself. And if it's in an area where I'm not able to invest, then I do have a lot of contacts who are in the HMO industry, and you may well end up being in a position of being able to manage other properties. Certainly, I could give you a strategy that would enable you to go out and find properties that are looking to be managed, and therefore you'll be able to generate an income from that for a very, very low investment. Let me just come down. Who else do we have? Oh, Kenneth, I've just seen another message. So Kenneth has just put, I know of at least 2 properties and are ideal for mental health. Well, Kenneth, please do come on the Turning Point seminar. Come and share that information with me. We're looking at opening between, well, certainly a minimum of 4 a year. We're looking at 1 every 3 months, new mental health care units. Don't get too hung up yet on the ins and outs of whether they should be en suite or do they need grounds or do they need a car park. Just come and start working with me and we'll get that one sorted out. But thank you for sharing that. So you got a couple there. And everybody else, that's just people going that they could hear me. That was from earlier. Fantastic. Cool. Okay, Ed. Ed's been putting a few messages that he couldn't hear, have no sound or video. Ed, there is a sticky note, a sticky post at the top of the page there on the chat section. I'm pretty sure it'll just tell you need to refresh your browser. For everyone who knows this platform, 2 very good friends of mine in America, Andy Jenkins and Mike Filsaime, created a webinar jam studio for this exact purpose of utilizing the Google Hangouts platform, but with all the other plugins that we have available, the marketing tools. It's a very, very good tool. If you're actually thinking next year of going into doing webinars to sell your product or service, one of the benefits you're going to have working with me by coming on the Turning Point seminar is I'm going to utilize all of my skill sets, my studio, my equipment, my payments for the software, because it's a leased software from them every year. And I'm going to help you to grow your business by running these type of webinars and seminars online. So you won't have to worry about the technical setup, all the cost, all the scripts. We will work together. We will generate the questions. I'll look at what products you have. We'll see how we can carve that up into various different elements. So if you have a book, for example, the old days of being able to take a book and sort of get a publisher to publish it out there and just sell your book and make a fortune, those days have gone. You know, they really have gone. And they've gone for a very good reason, because it's very, very easy to get a book published nowadays using Amazon, using Amazon's own software, using a strategy of taking your book idea of 100 pages and then cutting it down into maybe 10 chapters, where each chapter becomes a little PDF document, and then you share tidbits of information from that document to the wider world. What you need to have is, over and above that book, you need to have other products and services that you're going to plug into. If you look at some of the top best-selling authors that are around at the moment, good friends of mine, Simon Zucci, Property Investors Network, always bringing out property magic, always repurposing it, always adding new information to it with new case studies. So you got Simon, you got the guys down at Progressive, you know, Rob Moore and Mark Homer, always bringing out new books. Always looking to, obviously both companies there trying to fill up their training forums. Got individual like Mark Anastasi, good friend Mark Anastasi, the laptop millionaire. He brought out a book again, how to carving it up and sharing that information. The gentleman behind me, for those of you who have zoomed in on your camera, perhaps you're trying to. This, by the way, maybe I should have told you, and excuse me for having an itchy nose, I do apologize. This is one of my studios here, guys. It's got my ideas board behind the Turning Point seminar poster. These are just some of my books. In my other office, where my mother lives, so that's our sort of main business office, we have a lot more books, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. These ones here, I'm just going to all the way across the top there, and then most of these along here are by an author, a gentleman who's passed away recently. His name was Dr. Wayne Dyer. And for those who follow me through Facebook, you'll see I'm just reading and watching everything that Dr. Dyer had done in his 40-odd year career of writing books. He wrote his first book in 1975, which was published in 1976, and that was called The Erroneous Zones. And he wrote it in such a way on the front cover that people obviously thought it said something different and were putting it in little brown bags and taking it home. But it was more about touching those points in your life to stimulate action rather than what the other word would potentially imply. But Dr. Dyer wrote in excess of 40 books. He made films, one called The Shift, and another one, My Master Teacher, which was about his story about how he found his father after so many years. His father was an alcoholic drug, a womanizer, an alcoholic, a womanizer, He wasn't particularly nice to his own sons. He left his sons when Wayne was a very small boy. And it's the whole journey about how ultimately when he found his father, he was able to forgive his father. And that's an interesting point that I've sort of stumbled onto in this conversation with you, is that we do things in our business and life, and sometimes, people will judge us for what we do. Now, bearing in mind, I said earlier that 99.999% of the people I've met are good people, but they have a challenge in their life. The thing to remember is that when somebody isn't nice to you, it's about them and not about you as an individual. And some people haven't, when they're going through terribly hard times. So let's think about a motivated seller. Do they put food on the table to feed their children, or do they not pay their mortgage, or what do they do? They may make a decision not to pay their mortgage. They may then realize that frees up a few £100s a month, and that enables them to buy the electricity to keep the heating on, to put the food on the table for the children. And then maybe after a period of time, a credit card bill comes in and they don't pay the credit card bill. And then they go and start, getting into this downward spiral of debt. But you know what? When we meet these individuals, who are we to judge them? Who are we to stand there and point the finger of morality that they should have done this or they should have done that? Who are we to judge what some people have to do in their life before we meet them? Who are we to judge, as Dr. Dyer said when he met his father, who was he really to judge how his father lived his life? His father made a choice, and that choice was to go down a certain path. Yes, that had an impact on Dr. Dyer's life, but he learned early on to better himself. As I say, he wrote over 40 books. He was doing that before he met his father. And then the sad part of the story is that by the time he tracked his father down, his father had actually passed away some years previous through his alcoholic addiction. And I share that just again to say to you that there are no right or wrongs in life. Another thing I teach from stage, and I'll go more into this when we're together at the Turning Point seminar. There are no rights or wrongs in life. There is just a consequence. Excuse me one moment. There are no rights or wrongs in life. There is only a consequence. If I was to say to you, go now in your car, drive down the road. When you come to the red light at the traffic lights, drive straight through. Now, who's to say that that's not right or wrong? We have a programming that we should always stop at a red light. But of course, in some countries, if the red light's flashing, you can actually drive across. Now, in the UK, if you drive across a red light, the chances are on a busy road, there may well be somebody coming in the other direction on a green light, and there will maybe a collision. So there's no right or wrong, you see, there's a consequence. And I hope you see that explanation there of as the reason to why in your life, whatever you're doing at the moment isn't right or wrong. There's just a consequence. Whatever teachings you've had, whatever books you've read, whatever films you've watched, there's no right or wrong. It's purely a consequence. And if you're sitting, as I said, right back at the top of the hour, if you're sitting with the same computer in the same desk, in the same room, in the same house, the same surroundings, but you know yourself, excuse me, but you know yourself that you wish to change all of that, then you have to change your habits. You have to come on your turning point, because it is your turning point. I will be that mentor that says to you, no. I will be that mentor that says to you, no, you've tried that consistently and constantly. It hasn't worked. You have to look. There is a new way. There is a better way for you to be successful in 2016. If you continue to do these habits, then I would imagine this time next year, my friends, you'll be tuning into my next webinar and listening to me again talking about 2017. Now, I can talk through the whole of the year about my successes, and you can feed off those and plug into them, and we can work together. But ultimately, if you don't change anything, nothing will change. And I'd suggest to you that you're still on this webinar because you want to have that change in your life. You'll notice one thing I don't do on my webinars. I don't ask for lots of interaction. I don't want you to put your hand up and go yes, because I know that privacy is very important. I deal with a lot of businesses in and around Worcestershire who are failing as businesses, and they call me in as the business builder to come and save their business. I can put a management team in there if we need to. I can look at their business and do a helicopter overview and find, some of the areas where they're hemorrhaging a lot of money. I'll give you an example. Some years ago, I had a very large client in Worcester who spent more time at the golf club than, working in his own business. and subsequently that business started to fail. And we actually put a management team together. It ended up being a member of my family who went in as the managing director. We took over that company. We then got to the point where we realized we were going to have to Phoenix the company. So for those that don't understand what that is, that's where you take an existing company, you close the company down, and you then relaunch it, with a new name, new branding. We did all of that. We had 85 members of staff, mainly engineers. And there were a few of the older engineers that wanted to retire. So we allowed them to retire out the business at the same time. Everyone was kept informed. And then do you know what? The media got hold of the story and made out that this big family of business people had come into Worcester and destroyed a company and got rid of it, which wasn't the case. So we re-Phoenixed the company. We made it very profitable. We were able to buy the existing owner out. We were then able to relocate the business to a different town. And the reason for that was that we had a grant in the new town where they would help us build purpose-built premises. We also had Rolls-Royce come in as an investor. We also knew that the premises that we were in were under a lease, which was going to run out in the next few years, and the owner was not going to renew the lease. So if we'd have just waited and waited and waited and done the yes thing, every year, yes, we'll stay, yes, we'll stay, yes, we'll stay. We did the no, we want out, and we want favourable terms to be out. If we hadn't have done that, we'd have potentially lost the business because we wouldn't have had the grants for the building we were going to, and the employees would have lost their jobs because we wouldn't have had the business for them to have moved across to work with us. So we did all of that, and the business traded very successfully. Rolls-Royce were very happy, so much so that they bought my family member out of his directorship position, and he now works for another large UK PLC in a similar role. So, he's made his money. We made our money doing our consultancy elements and re-Phoenixing. And I share that story with you because, again, these are the things I can help you with. You might be on this webinar with a company at the moment that you own. It could be a property company, it could be a garage, it could be a high street shop, it could be anything, I don't know. But I can help you. I can help you get your business back on track. Individuals still need to buy items. I know there's a lot of talk over the years about having internet-based businesses, and we can't knock Amazon, can we? Guys, Amazon, eBay, going the wrong way in my book. For those of you who don't know, I had two very successful eBay businesses in the early 2000s. In fact, one of the guys that used to serve me as he was the sales manager for one of my suppliers is now actually one of my building contractors and is shortly due to start a refurbishment program with me. So, you never know where these business relationships will go years and years down the line. But I had two very successful eBay businesses. Both of them turned over £1 million each. Both of them, I was called to be part of eBay's very first university that they held in Birmingham all those years ago. And we were asked to then beta test all of the programs that they had. So what you see as a tool called Turbo Lister, we were part of that beta process. In the early days, you'd have to log into your account and upload a photograph, and you'd have to type in the description of what you were doing. And for those of you in those days that didn't have broadband, as many of us didn't, it was on a dial-up modem. And for those that know that from a dial-up modem, if you're halfway through uploading something and it crashes, you lose everything. So, we had some fun times. And we built that business up, and I sold that business in about 2011. So it's about 4 years ago I sold that business and the brand name and everything else. And the gentleman who bought it went off and did what he did with it. But they were very, very successful businesses. So, if you want to set up a business, there's lots of Amazon courses out there, but I can teach you how to set up an Amazon account and how to make a lot of money. eBay, exactly the same. You need to be tapping into drop shipping companies. You need to have a look at companies like eSources.co.uk and have a look at the membership sites that they offer. They offer free payment gateways. They offer free customized websites. You've got masses of drop shipping lists. Those are the guys you want to go to if you want to follow people who are expert in their field. Or of course, you've got other guys at the end of the scale, like a gentleman called Skip McGrath. Now, Skip McGrath is the very first guy I followed early 2000s who really got me into looking at eBay as a way to create a new business. I had lots of businesses at the time, but I wanted to have one of these new online shopping portals. We tried the website using some Australian software way back then called Shop Factory Pro. I don't know if any of you out there have heard that one, but we used Shop Factory Pro for a number of years. eBay came along. I learned more about eBay very quickly, and hence, we created two businesses that, as I say, independently turned over £1 million each. I'm still friends with my main supplier, who's based out of Worcester here, and he still has his retail and warehouse and wholesale operation. So, I can plug you into these guys if you want to have a retail operation in your area. They do everything electrical. They do everything gardening. So, you know, I could plug you into that. So I'm just going to have a quick look to see if there's any other questions. And by all means, if there's anything I've said that you'd like me to recap over, I'll be more than happy. I'll be more happy to do that. Okay, so one question that I've had emailed to me earlier, which I think I've covered, was what's going to happen, Mark, at the Turning Point seminar? Well, first of all, I'm going to give you a number of strategies that you can take away immediately at the end of the seminar to change your life the following day. I'm also going to give you my pledge of investing into any property opportunities or any opportunities for business where we all agree that there is some income that's going to be made out of it. So I won't back a deal if it's not going to work, but I will give you an explanation as to why I don't feel it would work. The other thing I'm going to do is, if you have a product or service at the moment where I identify that it could be an exceptionally good product for these type of webinars, then we will work together on a joint venture basis for creating that product and that service, and asking the right questions and creating a big multiple list, an email capture list. I have all the software to do that. I have all the servers, I have all the programs, I have this Webinar Jam Studio software, I have this studio here, and I've got my other studio. So you will be more than catered for. You won't have to go rushing out and buying thousands of pounds worth of equipment. I will also be investing more of my time and energy into the deals that we're going to do, such as the property deal I talked earlier, which will generate 12 million pounds over the next 5 years for 2 of my other students. I will work with you tirelessly to ensure that after the Turning Point seminar on the 28th of November, that we together will work to change your 2016. And if you want to run off after that and say, hey, Mark Walker's done this, and this for me, that's fantastic. But I will keep our privacy, because I don't go off and use my successful students to go and re-promote to get more people to these webinars and to my training sessions. I don't need to, guys and girls. And again, for my students on this call, you'll know that. You'll know that there was no upsell. You'll know that I have no other intention other than to make you super successful. And I know a few of you have secured some seats already for the 28th of November. And I'm just looking on here. A little note I made earlier is that from tonight, there is only 66 days left until the end of the year. So there are 66 days left until the 1st of January 2016. And all I can say for everybody on this call, as we're coming up to the hour, and I did promise you I would wrap up within an hour, is that I want the very, very best for all of you on this call. This will be recorded. Part of Google Hangouts enables it to auto-record. So this replay will be live in about the next 30 minutes. It's all automated. Google and YouTube obviously linked very heavily together. The software will automatically send you a replay. And I would ask you to share that link with anybody else you know that may be struggling at the moment, who is looking to change their life for 2016, not have the same, but have more. Come and listen to me at the Turning Point seminar. I will share some very, very powerful tools with you, some very powerful sentences that will change your future. Finance, that's fine, that's covered. I mention it because I need you to understand that I have the finance to invest in your deals or your business. But what you need to have is a step-by-step process. We're not going to do goal setting. Goal setting is fine if you're a footballer, yeah? We want to score. We don't want to aim for the goal. Yeah, we've got goal posts and a goal net. People aim too much for goals. We want to score, because that's where we win in business. We score and we're the first. There is no first prize for coming second in business, whether we're securing a property deal or whether we're building a business. No first prize for coming second, ever. So if you really would like to change your future for next year, all I would ask is you click on that button on the side of the screen now and secure your secure your seat. There is a £500 discount tonight. For those of you who have already clicked to open up a separate browser, you'll notice the ticket price is $497. This is a $997 product. The last time I ran Turning Point, I had 26 people in the room and it was sold out at $997. I will be releasing the last few tickets, but what I will let you all know now is there will not be 20 odd people in that room this time. The seminar will be held at my offices in Worcester, if you're wondering about the location. My Worcester premises are 3 doors away from Foregate Street train station in the middle of Worcester. So it's easy to get to. You can come up from London, you can go to Birmingham and come back out, you can come up from Bristol, direct links everywhere. We're also just 10 minutes off the M5 motorway. So again, coming up from London, you can be here within 2 hours, coming down from Manchester on a good run in the morning, 2 hours again. Right opposite me is a hotel called the White House Hotel. Now, I don't have any special arrangements with the White House for low value entry hotel rooms because they are very, very reasonable to start with. So you can have breakfast in your hotel room, come across for a 9 o'clock start with me and the team that I'm going to bring along on the day to introduce you to, and come and have an awesome and massive day with me, my friends, because 2016 is only 66 days away. And if you decide not to join me on this turning point, please decide what you're going to do in your life to change from where you're sat tonight with this computer, on this desk, in that room, in your house, in that street, in that town, with the car on the drive, and what you have to look forward to next year. I'd like to leave you with that and say thank you so much for tuning in this evening. I really appreciate our time together. Hopefully I've covered all the questions. Just going to have one final flick down to see if there are any other questions, and please feel free as I flick down, guys, if you want to put anything else. But ultimately, you have yourself a super evening. Thank you for tuning in. Look forward to you clicking on that Turning Point Seminar link. I'll leave it up for a few seconds after we finish. And God bless you. Look after yourself, and I'll talk to you and see you all on the 28th of November. Take care now. Bye for now.